Welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast, your source for information on hunting, fishing, and all of your outdoor passions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Mike Anderson here, along with Ben Fleischacker, our guest today.
Hello, hello.
Solomon Bach.
How's it going?
And Ashley Sorensen.
Good to see you.
Yeah, we have the whole gang here today. So we've never actually done in studio a four-person live or in-person podcast. So we only have 3 microphones. We were trying to get a 4th one set up. It was just a mess. So we're going with 3. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, since it's now got the video feature, you're seeing this semi-disaster, but we're just going to go with it. So, Ben, we're going to talk turkey today.
All right.
Yes.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. So
Yep.
on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you excited for turkey season?
Very, very. I mean, 10 it's just like entry level, essentially. So I would say above a 10, but not quite a 100.
Okay.
That's a good range.
Solid.
good.
So
10 times almost.
yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna definitely give it like a 12.5 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Are you a turkey hunter also?
I am. I
Okay.
was sent a couple pictures by my brother this morning of some turkeys that he was finding, and so I'm about a 12.75. A little bit.
Oh, so
little
you
bit
just
above.
have to one up me.
Just got to go a little bit
huh?
higher.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
yes, I'm pumped.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Ashley, are you?
I mean, I'm at a 10.
Really?
You guys got me excited
Just
about
jacked.
turkeys.
After this podcast,
Yeah.
you will be a 13.
So I've got some questions,
All right.
about getting
Perfect.
started.
Well, you know what? Let's just start with those.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley has not turkey hunted yet, as much as I have tried to entice her to get into a blind and to experience the joys of spring thunder.
You say that's what I need to start with.
Yes, exactly.
And so maybe you can explain what initially drew you to turkey hunting.
I'm going to let Ben take that one.
Wow. So, family that I grew up in, we were all bird hunters, not big game hunters necessarily. I mean, we all had bird dogs and kind of evolved into a big game. And the state I originate from, Nebraska, they consider turkey in the big game side of it. And so it's just something in the springtime, didn't think much of it. We transitioned to walleye, crappie, morel mushrooms, and never really focused on turkey until the year 2000. It's dating myself here, but senior year of high school was the spring of before graduation. I was able to go turkey hunt with my uncle up in the Niobrara River system, up in pretty much north central Nebraska, and got my hooked up there. Got my teeth kicked in multiple days. Finally able to make it connected on a 2-year-old Tom, and ever since then it's just been lights out. And it's been something that's been more of an obsession than a passion, I'd say. Obviously, you get passionate about things, but when you obsessively obsess over something, you can research every single detail. And I mean, I can remember filling a tag and still going out, setting up decoys, calling birds, obviously without a firearm or anything or a weapon, but just to get more experience working birds. And there's just something about getting the tom up close.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what it was about. It was about getting toms up close. You watch enough YouTube, you watch enough TV, hunting shows, reality is that most turkeys probably don't get shot, what we see on TV, but to strive for that to be in your decoys, right, at feet, not yards, I think is a goal for most people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can vouch for that obsession because, I have bi-weekly meetings with Ben here, and I would say probably half of all conversation is around turkeys.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it at least comes up once every single session. It doesn't matter the time of year. Turkeys are going to be there. It's just a matter of
So
fact.
is there a best time of year?
Spring,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you
why
can
is
hunt
that?
them in the fall, but they don't. It's not the same patterning them, or it's their breeding season. They're going to be receptive to calling then.
Yep.
So,
Very flashy and aggressive in the spring.
Okay.
A lot of fun.
Speaking of calling, let's hear some tactics, because I am not a good turkey caller. I have attempted to use multiple different ones, pot calls, slate calls, diaphragms, all that. Give me your hot take on what's the best,
So
what you're
that's-
using.
That's up for discussion too. And I think there's a level. I mean, you see it with waterfowl, you see it with elk. Anything that you're calling game in, that there's some people are just naturally gifted, right? Mm-hmm. And so part of that's probably not to get super scientific or anything or into the weeds too much, but how you receive what you hear, right? And then being able to duplicate or replicate that on something like an artificial, tool as in a call. From a calling standpoint, I mean, most people can get away with a box call and have no issues with that. They're very effective. They're very easy to use. Some states you're not allowed to use decoys. I've never been to a state that doesn't allow decoys, or if it's like a hunt club or like a private land, like you're hunting with some buddies and hey, here's the deal, here's the rules of the property. You'd be surprised how much work a decoy will do for you. With good decoys, it's just no different than waterfowl at the same time, right? If you got good decoy spread and not paying attention, all of a sudden you pay attention, you got birds landing in your decoys, So you don't always have to call. It is fun, it is engaging to participate in a calling segment with anything, whether it's waterfowl, turkeys, but turkeys especially, because you can actually hear them gobble, and they get closer and closer, and like, they went silent, what's going on, and then you hear them gobble like in a different direction or behind you, like how they pass you, so it's kind of a chess game. But yeah, callings, we probably put too much work onto calling when you really don't need to. I've sworn up and down that's someone else calling on this property. Like, who trespassed on this property? Like, how did somebody set up so close to me on public land?
Yeah.
And it's a turkey. It's a hen.
Wow.
They just sound like garbage. But that's just nature, right? So the turkey, yeah, I mean, calling, doing some yelps, you can get fancy, right? I mean, the more you do it, the fancier you can get, right? I mean, there's a lot of people we meet just, being a retailer and selling people's products that, like, they can pick up a call and you're just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, how can you make those noises?
Did you just bring one with you at all?
No.
Okay.
I have one in my office
Don't
for
do it.
sure.
I was
I
going to request one.
randomly
So I could try
set out
it.
some turkey yelps, and then there'll be people like. I was
gonna say, you're definitely in there shutting the doors.
Oh yeah. I don't have the slate. I got the mouth
okay.
call, so then I can be incognito.
Oh,
People
sure.
can walk by my office and they don't know that I have a turkey call in, and then all of a sudden I let out a loud yelp.
Only at SCHEELS.
They know it's me though. But as far as like the calling goes, I think one thing to really keep mind of is like mood. Like you don't know what the turkey's mood is immediately when you first show up in the woods. Like I'll give an analogy, like in the morning, like if I'm, my wife sleeps later than I do. If I walk into the room, like, I don't want to be like, hey, honey, let's get going. It's time to go. Like, she's going to be really mad, and she's not going to be very receptive to what I have to say. But if I start out like, honey, you awake? Yep. And then if she responds like, yes, I'm ready for the day, then I can be like, match her mood
Sure.
and excitement. But, if you come out guns blazing right away and they're not ready for it, not going to be good.
Good thing your wife likes hunting.
Yeah.
Else to be compared to a turkey.
That is a great comparison. That sets it out.
So if you remember one thing out of my mouth today, just remember that.
Okay.
So we'll leave the other knowledge bombs to Mr. Fleischacker.
No, it's 100% accurate. The birds will tell you what they want.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you call, they call, you call back at them.
Sure.
Right? I'm a firm believer of aggressive tactics, which I know we're going to get into more details here with Mike's notes, but there's a time and place for it. Back to Mike's point, like, don't come in, kick in the front door and start calling to them. Right? But at the same time, like, there's been times that, if it's the right time of the year in the season, the birds are fired up, like, you cannot do anything wrong.
Sure.
Like, you cannot do anything wrong. So,
Can you run me through, like, I know there's different calls, like there's yelps, like that type of thing, as beginners over here.
Box calls, slate calls.
Well, not even that, but like just like what the call is, like a gobble.
Types of vocalization.
Yes, that's the words I'm looking for. Can you run me through what those are, what the different options are, and what you can do with some of those calls?
you can get really fancy with terms.
Just run me through the basics, what I should know.
A yelp, a
So
purr,
basic steps.
a cluck,
Okay.
and a gobble.
Okay. Yelp,
Right?
purr,
And there's
cluck,
varying degrees
gobble.
of all those, right? I'm sure I'm missing something. We got, some
Don't forget the
diehard-
kiki.
There you go. See,
Get all
and there's
fancy.
a time and place for that too, right? But there's always something.
Sure.
Right? It doesn't matter. But the basics come down to the basics, right? If you can pull, anybody can pull this up, but I'm a firm believer too of like, if nature's doing this, I need to replicate it, right? So I can watch a YouTube video or a hunting video when they got birds up close, or if you hunt enough, you're gonna have birds come in close, where you can actually hear the noises they make, right? So some of the noises I make, like, I don't even know what the call is. It's just I know a hen does this when she's content,
You're just matching it?
just matching the hatch.
Gotcha.
Just doing what they're doing. So, initially, like first thing in the morning, right, you do a rundown of like, okay, they're in the trees. Now what do you do? How close are you to the setup, right? So if you're set up 50 yards from the roost tree, like sometimes it happens, sometimes on purpose, which I'm not a big believer of getting that tight. You can if that's just what you're dealt, but Other times you're going in blind. Like I hunt a lot of non-resident, out-of-state stuff. I still do some mentor hunts with kids, and so I'm showing up blind and like, oh yeah, the birds are always over here. Well, that doesn't tell me where they're at last night, right? So it's always important to scout. But going in blind, man, there was one time we were down in Kansas, and I was going in, we were hunting this creek bottom and had no idea where we're at, right? I mean, we got permission obviously, but the birds had pretty much vacated. It was a winter roost area, but typically there's always one or two toms that kind of hang back at the winter roost spot. So we're going in, and I remember stepping on a branch and cracking it. Like, and it's in the dark, we're super early, right? Because going in blind, like you want to go in super early so that way you don't catch yourself screwing up or bump birds out. Crack a stick, and literally like the tree above me, the tom fires on. And so like, going it, again, like you can study, and you know, Mike and I did this a couple years ago on a podcast, but like looking at terrain, and like you will be schooled. Like turkeys were the smartest, dumbest bird you'll ever experience. And so part of that,
100%.
You'll look at a section of trees, be like, oh yeah, that's the tallest cottonwoods. They're going to absolutely be in their oak trees. That day they decide to go, you know, rest in like a locust tree or something that's 12 foot tall. Like why? You know, it just doesn't make sense. So in general, 80% of the time you're going to be right by looking at the mature trees and that grouping of the mature trees. But yeah, going in blind, cracking branches. I like to step up, or in that situation, what we ended up doing is there was another finger we went to. So we went like back into the creek bottom, walked the creek bottom, got into another little bowl area, and just worked the bird into us. We call him Gimpy because he was a two-legged tom. Obviously, they all got two legs, but he had a foot injury, so he like gimped really bad.
Sure. So hop along. We have one at the lake.
Oh, do you? Yeah. So Hoppy.
Yeah.
We killed Hoppy in Kansas, though.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
Right, that's right. But yeah, so with the calls, I mean, just doing some basic yelps.
Sure.
Don't get too crazy loud. Don't get too crazy aggressive. Right off the bat, back to Mike's point, right? If they start getting, my goal is to always and it doesn't always happen, right? Because you have certain times of the year in the separation when they start dispersing from each other. But if I can get the hot hen or the lead hen fired up, that's my only goal in life. Because she will bring that tom because she's coming to fight that hen.
Sure.
She doesn't like that hen being mouthy. Sure. So I'm calling the hens. I don't worry about the toms. The toms are going to come.
Sure.
But if you don't have a hot hen, you just got a tom or a jake or something like that. Because sometimes that's reality too. Like you'll start seeing them later in the season break off and be in singles or pairs, or you got a group of jakes or something. But yeah, that situation is pretty simple.
Now, what's the line between a tom and a jake? How do you differentiate?
Age.
Just like, can you see that? Is that a visual thing?
Yep.
It's the beard length. You got one of them little stubber ones. That's Jake.
Yeah, be careful.
Longer one's
not
Tom.
to pick on Mike, but sometimes some areas get beard rot, which is a fungus.
You know, you're right. All right, that's
So
fair.
it's the fan.
General rule of thumb.
Yeah, general rule. If you go and see him fanned up, the beard.
Okay.
Right? So the fan will typically have the main primaries, the center of the fan, depending on the age class of the bird. Sometimes they got 4 to 6, taller feathers than the outside feathers.
Okay.
In general, right? Again, this is all 80% of the time, majority of the time, I should say, in this situation. But yeah, and then from the age class of a tom, like there's really no way to truly judge them, right? You hear people talk about beard length, and for me, beard length doesn't do anything. I'm about the spurs.
Sure.
Like I want big old hooks on them because that tells an age story better than what a beard does. Because you got to think about that beard being dragged to the brush, being bred, right? Sometimes will break off their beard when they're breeding too much, or they get the beard rot.
Sure.
So beard length doesn't necessarily equate to age. It's a good indicator, back to Mike's point, for seeing a jake or not, because the bigger the beard, typically, the older the bird, typically, not always. And then you got the subspecies, right? So this, again, getting into the weeds. So you got the Merriams and the Rios and the Easterns, the Osceola down south. And so like an Eastern will typically have like a rope, just great big old beard on them. If you have areas with Merriams, they typically don't have as big of a beard.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean they're not big, right? It's just like the subspecies, I guess.
If you could only hunt one subspecies, which one would it be?
It's a tough one. Depends on the time of year. I feel like getting schooled Easterns. Go to the big woods with chasing the Easterns. If not, Rios are pretty much, and I hope I don't make anybody upset out there, but they're pretty much the dumbest turkeys there are. Like they'll come into anything. Merriams will gobble at anything, but they, sometimes need some additional help,
coaxing to get them in.
Yep. But Rios, when they're fired up, like you cannot do anything wrong.
Nice. All right. Speaking of coaxing to get them in, I want to hear your thoughts on calling on hung up birds. Like, what are your best pieces of advice?
be patient. That bird knows you're there. Just be patient. Like, I'm not a patient person by nature, so I'm always like, we got to go. Like, grab your stuff. We're going to go make a new move on them. Sometimes it works. Usually, if you just chill out long enough, it'll work. Mm-hmm. There's times when I do those mentor hunts that, like, I'm stuck because I can't run a gun with who I'm with. I'm a run a gunner type guy. And I found that more times than not, if you're just patient enough, and if there's more birds in the area at least, just because you're calling that one tom that's, you know, hung up at 200 yards that you have no idea why. It could be a fence, it could be a creek, it could be, I've seen turkeys fly over rivers, like in eastern Nebraska, literally fly over the Elkhorn River to come to our decoys. Other times I've seen a 2-foot wide creek be the stop gate and why that turkey would not come across. So again, smartest, dumbest birds. I have no idea why. But a hung up tom, for me, it's trying to get action to the decoys. I want to show movement. And so there's a lot of times I'll actually take sticks, logs, rocks, whatever I got, and throw them at my decoys to try to get my decoys to move. If I don't have a motion base going, or if I don't have, I still got a couple of decoys left, but I burned a hole through the beak of hen decoys and put a fishing snap swivel on it and a jerk string on it, so I can kind of jerk it to add that movement.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those birds have been shot at before, right? If you're hunting public land birds, majority of the time they've seen something, right? They've either been a part of it, they've been missed, or they've gotten, like they blew somebody else out, like they spotted them. So it's very difficult to get some of those birds to commit, but if you can add movement, it's a game changer.
Yeah, that's my tactic for that is like I have one of those Reaper decoys that are the umbrella style where they're super packable. You can just, put it in the side of your pouch where you'd put a water bottle, and I'll just open that thing up to get it to move like he's fanning in and out.
Absolutely.
Like you don't necessarily want them to be like staring right at you, but if they're like 500 yards away and you have to get motion, that's a way to do it. Or, like if you just bring an old fan or like a Jake fan or whatever, that's another way to do it.
Is there a strategy, early versus late season in terms of like your decoys for Jakes, Toms, hens, like how many of which ones you run early season versus late season or something like that? Or is it just kind of the same throughout, or what's best practice? I know there's probably a million answers to that, but what's your best practice on that?
I've got
anybody. I'm looking for info.
Give us your tips.
Yeah,
got opinions.
We're all ears
for
over
sure.
here.
I pretty much start with a half strut Jake and a hen or two hens, and I stick with that most of the season. Because, just to be honest with you, I just don't have that many decoys, and I don't really want to run that many, and I prefer to be mobile. So, I know guys that will put out, if they know where birds are in the area and they know their general stomping grounds, they'll put out 10, 15 of them, make them look like a whole flock, and they'll join. But my personal hunts, I'm usually just running a half strut Jake and two hens, one or two hens.
Okay.
So, and then I'll just change my calling accordingly.
Sure. Good to know.
For me, it's time of year. The weather also plays a big role in it too, of the decoys. The high pressure, everything's more happy, right? We got high pressure today in Fargo. It's beautiful outside. None of us want to be inside. We're all
Why are we
happy
inside?
because the sun's shining and it's nice out, right? So just inverted, right? So if you got nasty weather, nobody's happy. Nobody wants to do anything. It's the same concept, right, with game animals. So with the certain states or whatever it challenges, one of my challenges this year is to be able to kill my North Dakota bird and hopefully the Minnesota bird as well without decoys. That's my goal.
Sure.
I've got 19 Dave Smith decoys and probably 13, 14 Avian X decoys. Obsession. Do you need that many decoys? No, you don't.
Absolutely.
When I do a metro hunter guide, it was important to have that many because that way I could set this spread at this person and this spread. So, it's not realistic. And, I am selling decoys, so if you guys are interested, let me know. Because it's just too much now. But, back to Mike's point. Certain situations, there's another guy, a longtime buddy of mine. If we put our decoys together, literally you need a decoy trailer. Setting up 13, 14, 15 decoys at a time. To set up, what are we trying to do is we're trying to replicate that winter flock.
Sure.
Right? So we want to add way more hens than we do, males. But when you look at a winter flock, typically the toms are not always with the hens. So you got to be careful with that because you don't want to have, I don't want to call it a Jake party. Nothing against killing Jakes. I mean, if you haven't killed a Jake, you're missing out in life because they're a lot
It's
of fun.
pretty fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're awesome to hunt. But, yeah, for the other situation is how you're hunting. If you're running gunning, you do not want more than a couple decoys.
Yeah.
And that's why I have avian X's because I love how you can just deflate them, put them in your backpack, or put them in your game pouch, run a gun. You have a strutter decoy or a reaper decoy, just have that in your hand or something like that. And again, we always have to do the disclaimer of that one. Do not do that on public land. Or if you're doing it on private land, make sure you're the only people there. You know, it's not a matter of if, it's when you're a part of a hunting accident, right? And whatever it is, whether it's turkey hunting, deer hunting, bird hunting, whatever. But, like, that's real. You know, being shot is not fun. But yeah, if I can drive to the place or if I got multiple people to carry and we just know, hey, we're going to set up here this morning, we're not moving.
Sure.
Multiple decoys. Like
Gotcha.
I'll build like small flocks. And then my kill flock is always, or I shouldn't say kill flock, but my kill spot is always going to be the male turkey decoy. Whether it's a Jake, a strutter, 3/4 straight, a strutter, a half strutter, whatever it might be. But my male turkey, that is what that Tom's going to come in for.
Gotcha.
Come fight.
Gotcha.
Right? Because tis the season. All the other hen decoys, they will get messed with. Like you'll have hens. I mean, I don't know if we got any video that we can show of that. I personally don't have any, but you'll have a hen strut to fight a lead hen. So there's decoys out there, the postures, right? And so there's a lot of decoys you can use that are like systems, right? So it's you got a lay down hen, which means like she's about ready to get bred. And you can have another Tom or a Jake or something like that. You can set that right next to each other. So that's, again, an aggressive response because that other Tom coming in wants to breed. So he's going to fight that other Tom off. So he's going to fight that Tom and try to breed that hen. Or you can do a standard like look up or a head up type decoy, an alert decoy, and just set it right on the ground. And that's what I personally do because I feel that the lay down hens, and again, this is just the areas I hunt, they sit too low. That
Oh,
Tom
just in
has
the
to be
grass?
too close.
Gotcha.
Before he sees that. I want them to be able to see that from a distance. So even to your decoy setup, that plays, you know, you got to play the terrain. So like the best spot to sit may not be the best spot to have your decoys.
Gotcha.
And I'm willing to sacrifice the best spot to sit for the best spot for my decoys.
Now, is the breeding setup like you were talking about, is that just an early season thing or is that throughout?
All season.
All season, okay.
Yep. Hens will come in at different times.
Okay.
Yep, it's all photo, like the sunlight, not sunlight.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but then if it's super cold out, it's not what I'm doing. Like I'm building that group, you know, 3 or 4 turkey decoys, and I'm putting them kind of huddled together. You know, not like feeding over a corn pile huddled together, but like they're not as spread out. Versus first thing in the morning, if I know that it's a transition area that these Toms are going to come out in the middle of this cornfield, but the closest I can get is a quarter mile away. Like I've got like a string of decoys, right? 3 or 4 decoys. Got my kills, and then I got the other ones spread out like those birds are already moving off. Later in the season, they still might group together as a big flock. But what's going to happen is those birds are going to fly down, the Toms are going to gobble, the hens are going to scratch. The hens that are receptive are going to go off with the Toms, or the Toms are going to follow those hens. The hens that have already been bred or not going to be bred because they're not receptive are going to go off and do their own thing. And so, you know, as you're driving around scouting in the morning, you're going to see a group of birds, and you'll see some other birds way off in the distance. So that's just one thing you got to pay attention to. But yeah, I'm trying to get my decoys. Again, that's one of my goals this year is not to hunt with decoys, but is to get my decoys way out there so that way they know where to go. Like it's follow the leader, follow the string, and then they're going to see that Tom decoy or Jake decoy, and then that's what's going to elicit their commitment.
Are you learning? Because I'm learning.
So, yeah, are you going to rely then just on calling then? Is that,
That's where I get really aggressive.
okay.
Like if they're at a distance, I get aggressive. I'm not going to lose anything. Like they're not coming anyways. So now if they're super tight to me, like meaning like I'm set up close to them, like sometimes like I will not make a noise until I hear them fly out of the tree, hit the ground, do some scratching, because when they hit the ground, they're just not like immediately going off. Like they fly down, ruffle their feathers, kind of do some preening, maybe scratch a little bit, then they start, you know, their world. But yeah, super quiet. And at that time, it's just really soft hen calls.
Now, as far as like camouflage, what are you wearing?
You know, V2 is probably the best camo, I feel like.
Definitely the best camo.
No, for me, again, it kind of depends on the area. So early season, like certain states, for example, North Dakota opens up this coming weekend, and I don't know if we have anything green outside of like conifer trees.
Right.
Golf courses.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
I know my backyard is not green right
No,
now.
I haven't seen anything. I mean, we've been scouting, you know, every weekend now for several weeks, and there's nothing green. like nothing. So in that situation, like I feel like some of your waterfowl patterns are your best option because everything's dead already, right? Now, camo, you know, obviously we sell camo, everybody's brands, but at times camo can be a fishing lure, and it could be the person using it, right? So you could have the best camo possible, but if you're moving around making noise, it don't matter.
Stepping on that
I
brand.
was just
Exactly.
going to say
Step
that.
on the-
Your
yeah.
best camouflage is the absence of movement. Just sit still.
I've killed turkeys with a white T-shirt on.
There you go.
Just don't move.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
If you see turkeys going through farmyards or going through abandoned farms or equipment, or you know, back in the irrigation states, you got irrigation pipes and tubing and everything else, and you got farmer junk out there. They walk right by it, no problem. Right. So what's the difference? Just don't move. Back to Mike's point. It's the best camo. But I prefer to hunt with leafy suits.
Yeah,
Because it allows me to.
You're
move.
a ghillie suit guy, aren't you?
I am.
That would be so much fun.
Well, and
I've
part
never
of it
tried that.
It's because, again, like, you know, when I'm, say the four of us all go out hunting, and I need to be able to move if I'm, like, calling the shots, right? You know, it's just like a waterfowl hunting, you know, the caller calling the shots. And they got to be able to move because they got to watch the birds. It's no different than us. Like, if you guys just don't move, I got a ghillie suit on, I can move way more because I got the face mask all the way down. Like, you can move around, you can spot and stalk. My first archery turkey was spot and stalk. I got caught like literally in the middle of a field with a flock coming towards me up over this hill. And I just got on my knees and I didn't move. And they came right by me.
Man.
Right by me. So ghillie suits, leafy suits
I'm getting
are real.
pumped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and they blend in with everything because you're outline, right? And that's where, like, I'm probably bucking the system to a little bit, but I don't like tight-fitting camo because I want loose. I want baggy. I want it to, like, flow with me, you know? If the wind's blowing, I want it to blow a little bit. Now, I'm not going, like, 2 sizes too big or anything, but I'm not in this whole game of,
Compression wear.
no, I'm not. Maybe under, you know, like
Yeah.
the base
Base
layers.
layer, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm not that guy. And plus, I don't work out, so.
It sounds like a workout,
Oh, it
crawling on
is.
the ground. And
It's fun.
Oh,
yeah,
it
yeah.
absolutely can be.
Your knees get calloused if you're going to do a lot of reaping. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't know if that answered you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So of all these different parts of hunting, what is the most challenging aspect of it? The calling,
Set up.
okay.
You need birds to kill a bird. Excuse me. You need birds to kill a bird, right? So if you're set up in a place with no birds, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything right either, though. You know, but there's times you have bad luck, right? I mean, I cannot tell you how many success stories that are failures, right? But there's still successes because you learn that, like, okay, I did this, or hey, they've been roosted here for the last 2 weeks, but I'm not going to go scout the night before because I got something going on. I know I'm going to show up, and just had it happen this past weekend with a buddy back in Nebraska. It was youth season. Took his youngest son out. They had these birds to bed. They were separated from the flock. I'm just like, dude, this is like perfect for you, and it didn't work out. But it worked out later that morning. So success for them, which is great. But yeah, I mean, just because you did all your homework, some days they fly off the opposite side of the tree.
That
So-
can be one of the most frustrating things,
Oh,
but
yeah.
persistence pays off.
Yep.
Like that reminds me of a hunt probably 3 or 4 years ago. Like I'd started calling these birds, and then I had a really nice tom start to come in, and he hung up at like 50, 60 yards. Like I probably could have shot him at his closest point, but I was trying to run camera and like get some good footage. And like Ben said, I wanted to kill him in the decoys. And then it just got dark enough where he roosted like 75 yards away from me. So I was like, well, I know exactly where he is. So I opened up the door of my blind and like basically just belly crawled out of there. And and you know, I was like, okay, we'll come back the next morning. And he went and he pitched off, went on the other side of the river. And I was like, all right, well, then I ended up like looping around and just cutting him off at that point because I used the terrain to my advantage. So it was like, I want that bird right there. Like, you are the bird that I want to get. And you just got to make a move and stay persistent with it.
I was gonna say, I've had it happen to me a couple times in the last number of years, but like the opposite side of the tree line thing, right? Where you put the birds to bed, you've seen them come down on this side or whatever, and you set up, and they go down on the other side. So, I mean, it's probably a case-by-case basis, but would you, like, in your cases for you guys, would you sit and stay persistent on that side and just see if you can get them to come over? Or are you trying to loop around or make a move on them right away?
Depends. Depends if they got hens.
Yeah? What would that change?
So you can't beat live hens, right? Mm-hmm. The lead hen decides to go out this way. Unless you get aggressive and call that hen over, she ain't coming.
Gotcha.
Now, those toms, will the toms eventually come? Absolutely. You just got to be patient.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to wait for them to start laying down. You know, like that's when you're like 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock is some of your best hunting.
Oh, yeah. When the toms are out cruising.
Okay.
Looking for love.
So, all right, I got a question for you. Like, we had kind of passed it in our conversation, but I was like, mental note to bring this back. So, like, you set up in the morning, and it doesn't work out, but you're, like, hearing birds. How do you know, like, where to make your second setup where you're in the chips, but you don't get, like, picked off?
Knowing what I know now and what I've done is you always have your plans, right? So, like, if we're going to go hunt, you know, it's going to be 2 weekends before I get a chance to hunt. Like, I already know the properties. And it's not because I've got a lot of time there, but, like, I've, again, obsessively looked online, topographical maps, knowing, like, okay, if I'm set up here because I know there's going to be birds somewhere up and down this water system, could be a coulee, could be a draw, could be whatever, right, depending on your state, depending on where you're hunting. But knowing that that's typically where they're going to be, because I've seen birds at some point in my life there, or I'm hearing reports of birds there. For me, it's about knowing, okay, I'm going to set up here because I feel like this gives me the best option for them to see my decoys. And then plan B is going to be this. And then you got to really, and this is, again, I'm trying not to tell too many secrets because turkey hunting's become like a combat sport anymore. It feels like what used to be knocking on a door, like, oh, turkeys, what do you mean? Yeah, go kill them all, you know. Now all of a sudden, like, no, you got to pay me $500 to go shoot a turkey, right? Different topic. But that water system, you got to be careful because there's many times, way more times than I can count, than successes on this one, is that you get to that water system and you realize, oh, crap, I can't cross it because it's too deep. And so I always look at the maps to find where I can cross that. And that's always plan B. How do I get on the other side of the property first? And then plan B, from there, it's where the birds are going to be. Because I don't know if the birds are going to pitch over here or going to go over here, or there's a, whatever, a hill, or there's some, plant that's blooming that time of year that they want to go eat on, or there's already grasshoppers out on the ground, or it's alfalfa field, whatever it might be. Winter wheat field, they like that too. But I'm always looking for how I can get across first before I have any other game plan. So that's plan B, C, D. Plan B is to get across somehow, some way, right? And you talk about not being seen. Well, it don't matter. Because if you can't get across, you better just sit, be patient. Mm-hmm. If not, I have taken and got as close as I can within the cover while still keeping my decoys present. There's been hunts that I've been on that, it's a trail, through a, wood system, whatever, like a 2-track farm road or something. And that right there, knowing that somehow, some way, because most animals are going to take the path of least resistance, right? We're no different. Cattle trails, same thing, right? Hunting deer, you see it all the time. But staying on a road system is for sure the easiest transition period, or not period, sorry, transition from A to B for those turkeys. Do they fly? Absolutely. Will they want to fly? Probably not, right? Anytime a bird's in the air, they risk injury. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of rough grouse too. Their first, pheasants, for example, they'd rather run than fly, right? But when they fly across a body system or water system or whatever habitat, it could be blowdowns, it could be something, who knows, the area you hunt. Typically for me, it's always water. They will fly down, but they're always typically flying in the same areas, right? So where that bird's flying across is also an area they fly across anyways, or have in the past. They're just not going to blindly fly across something. They want to be able to see where they're landing. A 2-track road, farm road, game trail, it's always a solid place. If that's as close as you can get without busting them out, I'm setting up right there. But I'm trying to get my decoys in that position so that way they have something to focus on, right? Because, the guys that can consistently kill birds without decoys, I applaud them. That's very challenging.
You're going to do that this year.
Yeah, we'll see. I say I am.
Yeah, my first ever bird was without decoys, but it was kind of a circumstance thing. It was also in snow camo, so they were all flocked up. And I watched where they were roosting every night. So they'd come across this field and roost in this old house grove. So I caught them halfway across the field one night, and there's a nice little depression that they follow the edge. So I just belly crawled in my snow camo to where I knew they were going to be, and I got up the back side of the ravine, and all of a sudden I peek my head up, and there's about 30 turkeys within 20 yards of me. So I found the first one with a beard and smashed them. So
There you go.
I don't think you can really credit that to like killing turkeys.
There it is, folks.
without
Turkey hunting
decoys,
is as easy as
but
that.
yeah,
Turkey catching.
sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
Yep. And that's the other thing. I mean, if you've got a tag, you're looking to punch it because that's food on the table. It's totally different, right? If you're doing it for sport, that's where it gets into like, somebody having preconceived like notions of like, this is how it has to happen, right? Whether it's self-inflicted goals or goals of social peer pressure, right? Killing them in the decoys. Again, like I'm a big fan of killing them in the decoys, but I'd be lying to everybody if I said that every single turkey that was been killed with me has died in the decoys, right? Sometimes it's you're walking to get set up in the afternoon, you get into the flock, you're like, oh crap, and you shoot one.
I'm a big proponent of I want to kill one in the decoys, and then it gets to like 35 and I know I'm going to get him. He's done. Like I rarely have the patience to let them get all the way to my decoy unless I know without a shadow of a doubt, like he's committed. He's going to fight my decoy. Like then I'll let him. But if they're like just milling around, I can't wait. Like I'm going to pop them. So
For the 3 years I've turkey hunted so far, I've never gotten to the point of seeing them fight a decoy. So that's my goal this year. Is I'm definitely using decoys, but I want to see that happen and see if I can make that happen. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, my best advice with that is you can't let them fight your decoy if you shoot them when they're 10 foot from the decoy.
Let it happen a little bit first.
Yeah.
Yep. You gotta let them fight first. And sometimes it's part of it because and it's shotgun versus archery, right? So with a shotgun, you got time.
Yeah.
You got time.
Yeah.
Like, even if they want to walk off, start calling to them again. Like, if they're that fired up to come in to fight the decoy, like, you can toy with them. I mean, not to be, like, sick or anything like that, but, like, if you want a show, you can give them a show.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited because I've got my first shotgun turkey tag finally after 3 years of preference, which it shouldn't have taken that long for where I got it, but it did. But I've gotten 3 years of archery turkey hunting under my belt, and I'm excited to have a shotgun tag in my pocket this year. That'll be fun.
Turkeys are the only animal that I'd rather shoot with a gun than with a bow.
Why though?
Just, I've had a couple of instances where I did everything right and I got the shot I wanted to, but I missed my mark by like inches. And I thought it was a lethal shot and I never found the turkey. It was like, with a shotgun, you don't have that. It's like you either get them or you don't. So, and then there's also like decap broadheads where you can have that same mentality, but I tried the decap route and I hit it about 2 inches lower than I needed to and literally had the arrow bounce off of the turkey and then had it run away. And that was like, that was one of the most humbling feelings I've ever had. Cause like,
that's the face palm.
Cause I ranged it and I knew where I needed to shoot. And I pulled back, and it just like he took a few more steps than I thought he did, and I aimed just a hair lower. And I was like, I saw that arrow coming in. I'm like, oh, you're done. Oh, no, you're not. All right, you're running away. Yep, you don't have that with a shotgun.
Yeah. Ben, you bow hunt turkeys as well, I assume?
I used to.
Used to? Nice.
Yep. And back to Mike's point, there's the room for error is very small.
Yeah.
You can watch all the diagrams, look at the diagrams, and when it's real life situations, sometimes you got to pick the shot right. And, it may not be like that turkey didn't give you the right shot, you just don't shoot, right? I'm a big proponent of just get one in them, but for turkeys, that typically doesn't work too well.
Sure.
So, yeah, I used to bring one of my bird dogs with me when I was doing archery hunts, just if we had to go track a turkey,
Gotcha.
which multiple times. More times than not, we were tracking turkeys, for people.
They're good at hiding, too,
after
they've been hit.
They're huge birds, and they can hide. But, yeah, my deal is if you're going to archery hunt with me, you got to shoot them in the head, period. No body shots. Because, again, to Mike's point, I've seen so many bad. Like, they look great shots, and that turkey ended up dying. But sometimes you find them, most times you don't. Unless you got a dog or something.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same like it is looking for a deer. It's a lot smaller target and a lot
It
more camo
is,
on it.
for sure. Like, I had one where I shot it, and I like pinwheeled him. He like flipped around and fell down and flopped and then got up and ran, and I never found it. I was like, this is just ridiculous. And I spent a long time. Like, I even came back the next day and tried to find that turkey. I don't know. Like, the only thing I could think of is, like, because there really wasn't a ton of woods and stuff or places to go, because it was, like, it was a smaller piece with, like, no other, like, serious habitat next to it. So it was like, he's got to be, like, in this area unless he's tried to fly across the river. So it's like, maybe he tried to fly across the river and didn't make it. Like, I don't know. Either way, I never found that turkey. And, yeah, it was just, it just sticks with you, you know.
Makes you try harder next year.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So, you know, kind of on that topic, I'd like to talk a little bit about, like, sub gauge, like, you know, 410s and stuff. Can you explain to me, like, what you like about it, thought process, any tips, stuff like that?
Also, explain those terms that you just used to some of us.
Yes.
Smaller gauge.
Some of us.
So a sub gauge being like, you know, you got your 12, 20, and pretty much 12 and 20 are like your primary shotgun gauges. And now you got 10 gauge all the way up to or 410, I guess would be the smallest shotgun gauge, but you got 410, 28, 24, 20, 16, 12, 10, you know, and so like the bulk of the business, you know, for everybody is 12 and 20. Sub gauges came into play really, really big the last handful of years because of a new shot called TSS, which is tungsten super shot. Before that, everybody just pretty much shot lead or some, you know, non-toxic like heavy shot or something like that, or a bismuth blend or something. But yeah, shooting sub gauges is a lot of fun. It's good for certain situations for people. You know, I'm on the fence because, you know, I've been doing it for a lot of years, and so I feel like, you know, everybody has an opinion at some point, right? And your opinion kind of changes as you progress in life. And, you know, it started with shooting turkeys with a 410, you know, 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, as like a pride thing, right? Because you have to get the birds in close because, you know, you're shooting a 2.5 inch or 3 inch shell of a 410 that's like tiny, right? You got like 20 pellets in it pretty much, or BB, sorry. Yeah, I'm all about it in the right situations. I'm not willing to risk range when it comes to shooting sub gauges. Like if you're shooting, you know, a 410 or a 28 gauge, I've seen 20 gauge, you know, lead reach out and touch people. You know, not people, I should say, turkeys. I've seen some impressive shots.
Turkeys,
Yeah,
yes.
turkeys, not people. I've seen 20 gauge TSS do some work too at some ranges, right? That you're just like, wow, like I cannot believe that. But some of it's shot, right? Like who's shooting the gun, experienced shooter, as well as just getting some luck. Right?
Yeah.
And so shooting 410s, I killed a turkey last year with a 410, which was awesome. I think I've killed a turkey every year with a 410 for the last several years. And it's because I'm killing them at feet. Again.
Yeah.
Killing
Well,
them.
I mean, when you have that mentality, like, I'm going to kill you in the decoys,
Yeah.
then 410 is perfect for
Oh,
that.
Yep. Yep.
But if you're like me and they get to 40 and they got their head sticking up and looking, like, you kind of want that 12 gauge then.
Yeah, and I mean, the TSS 410, I mean, has successfully killed at 40 yards. However, I'd much rather have a 12 gauge 3 inch load. You know,
Absolutely.
there's less room for error. Because that's the last thing we want to do is injure these birds. You know,
Yeah.
I'm shooting a single shot 410, so it's not like I got time to reload and get on that bird again. So
That all comes down to practice too. You know, like shoot your load, know how far it is effective, like how many pellets are in that target when you're at 40 yards, when you're at
Absolutely.
50 yards, when you're at 20 yards.
yes, I mean that's like that should have been the start. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you better be patterning your shotguns to know, because I mean I've had guns that shoot bottom left or high right or something like that, or high or low or whatever it is, and depending on the choke tube, even. You know, I used to shoot a lot of aftermarket choke tubes. Then went to more of just like a standard full choke or an extra full choke that's just like a stock one, you know, because again, when like it's important when you're shooting them at distance, but when you're shooting them at, you know, sub 10 yards, like typically sub 5 yards, like I did a hunt a couple years ago where the guy brought his over and under out with them, and he had a full and an improved cylinder, you know, and I was like, what are you doing with an improved cylinder choke tube, right? But guess what? Killed his bird with the improved cylinder because, again, we're killing them at feet, not yards. Yeah, but you better be patterning your shotguns. It sucks. It's expensive and it hurts physically and, you know, monetarily, but especially with TSS. But it is so vitally important to know where you're shooting. We do it with everything else, weapons, right? Rifles, handguns.
You have to have that level of confidence, just like for the bird's sake.
Oh yeah, yep. But I would say today with TSS and with a subtle plug for Winchester XR Longbeard, that stuff's freaking dynamite for lead. It's the only lead I shoot anymore. But the 20 gauge is the way to go. You don't need a 12 gauge. Like I've seen 20 gauge make some incredible shots. So especially with TSS. But my guide, I call it my guide gun. What I used to guide with it, or my mentor gun type deal, is 12 gauge, 3.5 inch. Like, yeah, if they get hung up, we're gonna touch them.
Yeah, I'm a Remington 870 Express guy.
Yes.
I shoot everything with that gun, so it's just we've got a connection. So that's what I like to use.
Got a relationship.
Yeah, we've been through thick and thin. So
ups and downs.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do just a little bit of gear talk before we let you go here. Like, what are your must-haves? And then, like I have this on every single hunt. This is what I at least have to have in my pack. And then let's say I'm getting into hunting and I'm ready to start splurging a little bit. What are my equipment pieces that if I'm going to spend on one thing, it's going to be this?
I'd say most people know they have to have camo to go turkey hunt, but one thing that people don't always remember is gloves and a face mask. Right? You can have a hat, you can have like a pullover deal, but no skin showing is my deal. So as a basic, like most people, again, we're always gonna have camo, no matter what, but that glove and that face mask. I always, anybody that hunts with me, I have extra turkey stakes, right? Decoy stakes, and I have extra face masks and I have extra gloves. If you show up to hunt with me without either one of those, here you go. Like, you have to have them. Like, I shouldn't say that. You don't have to have them, but, like, if you're set up in a tree, because certain setups, again, like when I was talking about, like, I'm all about placing my decoys over placing me. Like, I always want my decoys in the best spot, so, again, that means that majority of time, it is not going to be the perfect setup for me or the other people I'm hunting with. Mm-hmm. If I'm hunting solo, like, I'll lay in the decoys. Straight up lay in the decoys, my leafy suit, ghillie suit, whatever. Like, I've cottoned a turkey before. Central Nebraska turkey. I have a witness on that too. Yeah, but I was laying in my decoys. And it was a young Tom and 2.5-year-old Tom that just wanted to fight everything. Actually, it's funny. Just this past weekend, I watched a Meat Eater episode. I think it was Cal. I think they were hunting in Hawaii. And they got this Tom, or it was a Jake, coming up and just beating the crap out of the decoy. And I think Cal was actually physically holding the decoy when this bird was beating the decoy.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, so, again, the smartest, dumbest bird. There's times that you, like, blink your eyes and they spook, right? So you just never know. But, yeah, must-haves, camo. And, again, like, I'm kind of probably in the minority about this one, but I do not care if my camo matches. Like, if anything, I probably do it just to make the purist mad because my camo doesn't match, right? So don't worry about that. Buy what's right. You can get away with way, way less than you think. Clothing-wise, again, depending on your situation, it's always important to have at least a rain jacket. I'm a big fan of hunting in rain pants, whether it's underneath my ghillie suit or leafy suit or just straight-up rain pants, because I'm sitting down and, again, you're going to be wet for a while, especially if you're hunting with me. Like, if we don't fill the tag, like, we ain't leaving. Like, just buckle down because we're going to go. And we'll find the birds. But a call, box call, for sure on the vest. That's always a good one. I wouldn't worry too much about everything else until you're proficient. Pot call is probably my go-to call. I really like them. The diaphragm calls are great too. I think the amount of sounds you can do on a diaphragm call is probably the highest than anything else. But I'm pretty proficient on a pot call, so that's why I run it. And again, like, typically, like, if we're all hunting, like, I don't care who kills the turkey as long as I get to be with you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, I just love the hunt, right? So, and also, like, I'm a spur chaser, kind of like we alluded to that earlier. Like, I'm all about the spur. So, like, a 2-inch spur tom comes in, like, everybody sit down.
You got this.
Yeah, I've been waiting over 500 birds for this one.
Pulling rank on us.
Yeah, 100%. But guess what? It's never happened. So the odds of it happening is, they're getting better now, but, like, it's just not going to happen, unless I go to Mexico. But yeah, so decent pot call. The brands out there are a dime a dozen. There's a lot of good calls out there. There's some subpar calls, but don't get caught up with the price either. Like, you don't need a $100 box call to go kill a tom, right? I mean, you proved that already with your snow camo, just being in the right place, right time. But at the same time, like, don't go buy like the $5 box call, right? Spend a little bit of money. You come into SCHEELS more times than not, you're gonna be able to play with the call. So whichever one sounds better for you. Like, waterfowl calls are the same way for me. That, you know, the four of us could have a duck call, and we're all four gonna sound different. So I'm gonna buy the call that I sound the best with. And it could be a $150 call, or it could be a $50 call, right? So the same thing with turkey stuff. And then a decoy. A lot of good brands out there. I mean, you got Lucky Duck, you got Dakota, you got Avian, you got DSDs. I mean, Flambos, I'm sure I'm missing people, but Mojo, you know, there's a lot of good brands out there. For me, it's more about packability. My DSDs do not pack well, but I can fit, in my decoy bags, I can fit 2 hens in the one bag that comes. Now, you gotta be careful how you place them in there so you don't rub the paint off, but so I'll typically have 2 decoys per bag. If it's in a strutter bag, I can fit like 3 decoys, 4 decoys in there. So that way I'm just bringing out one bag, but all you really need are 2 decoys. If you have to choose between any one decoy, I would encourage you to buy a Jake at first and then buy a hen decoy. Because again, you're trying to get that aggressive response from them. Just because you see a lone hen, I've seen more toms come to a single Jake because they didn't realize there was a hen there, decoy, than a tom coming, or a tom or a Jake. A legal turkey, how about that? Legal turkey coming to a sole hen. For a long time, I did run single hens, and I've killed just as many birds, but I think on certain days, it's just better to have a single Jake, right? If you can only afford one decoy. Now, ideally, it's 2 decoys, a hen and a Jake, period. And then even better, it's an upright hen, a feed hen, and then a Jake. Like, that's probably my go-to is 3 decoys. I like the feeding hen because it means she's content, she feels safe. The upright hen is good because when you're calling, it's very accurate for a hen to have her head up, you know, yelping, yakking her head off. The tom or the Jake decoy, strutters are good. Strutters cause a lot of attention though, which also mean that, you know, there's times that, depending on how you're hunting or where you're hunting, that you get a lot of road traffic, meaning that people are pulling up because they think that your tom decoy is a tom. And so that's also messing up your hunt, because there's a lot of times that those birds have been shot off those roads before. Like, people just driving around shooting stuff, that like they go immediately back into the trees when a vehicle comes, right? You see with mule deer out west, they'll put their head down, just hide real quick.
Happens more than I care to admit.
Yeah, but you know, they're, again, smart as dumb as birds. But yeah, the 3 decoys. I love feeders. I've got way more feeder decoys than I do uprights. I like the uprights because, again, I can have a feeding decoy out, and I can have my Jake, and I can take that upright hen and just set her directly on the ground. As long as I got visual representation, and again, your decoys are going to do majority of your work. Like, we've killed them with foam decoys, like the $5, $6 foam decoys.
You just got to get their attention.
Yeah.
That's how I did it year one, is just minimal gear, and worked out. I mean, there's been years, like I said, where it doesn't work out and you try really hard, but yeah, sometimes it doesn't take a lot.
Yep, it doesn't. The right days, the right birds. And some birds are receptive. Some birds like strutter decoys, and they're going to die. Like, they just, one decoy is a strutter decoy or a reaper decoy, and you just put it out, and they're going to just immediately come to you. I mean, there's so many YouTube videos out there showing that. And it's a lot of fun to hunt them that way. It's not a very good group setting way to hunt. You know, it takes some talent to get that accomplished, but yeah. Then the shells, if you can't afford TSS, and I mean, it's, you know, it's a little bit different because, you know, once you know the value of what you're going to get by having TSS or a heavy shot or like some sort of a non-tox blend or like a super shot style, like that Longbeard XR is just, it's 5-shot. I don't like shooting 5-shot. I like 7, 8, 9s. But that 5-shot lead with that shot lock in it, I mean, it's like punching a softball. I mean, I think it's just, it shoots so good. That's all we shoot over on 20 gauge, really. Longbeard. But yeah, and that's very affordable too. But I mean, my first 410 turkeys, probably 5 or 6 of them all came from 2.5-inch 9-shot. That's a ½ ounce a shot. But shooting them with, you know, we can hit them with the barrel. Don't need much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and don't forget snacks.
Ooh.
Snacks is a big one.
What's
What's your
Yeah.
favorite
What
snack
kind of
when you're
snacks do you
turkey
have?
hunting? What are you bringing?
Anymore, it's high chews.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that
I'll
little
plug my
quick
ears.
energy pick me up.
I'm just kidding. He has the gummy bears, don't you?
The gummy bears are my mule deer snack.
mule deer.
Yeah.
Okay. What's turkey then?
Turkey, I guess I don't really have a go-to snack for turkey.
It's jerky because
It's gonna
turkey's
have to-
jerky.
Well,
Turkey's jerky.
I was going to ask, because
Yeah.
you talked about getting food on the table. What do you make out of the turkey then? Because I was thinking turkey jerky. I do like turkey jerky.
Yeah. If you, depending on how many birds you got, grilled is really good.
Really?
Bacon wrapped, marinated in Italian dressing.
Okay.
Wrap it with,
Bacon
Yeah,
wrapped,
we got a
yep.
recipe
yeah,
going here
bacon.
now. Yeah.
I'll get my notes out.
Bacon, jalapeno, cream cheese.
Are you
Chili.
talking the breast, I assume? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But more times than not, I mean, probably the last 7 years, majority of our birds we grind up.
Okay.
Yep. So I do a pound of bacon per bird, but you got to take the thigh meat too, because you need that dark meat in there. And then you cook anything you want.
But you add bacon to the ground meat.
Yep.
Okay, for
Yep.
flavor then?
Yep.
For fat?
Flavor, fat.
Okay.
Yep. Because you're trying to make patties. And I can't take ownership of that recipe. I got that from another turkey hunting buddy, but it's incredible. It's just game changer. Because again, I mean, turkey burgers, pastas. I mean, we make meatball, everything. You think of it, you can make it. If you use turkey meat or chicken meat for it, you can use that turkey meat.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that we run out of every year is turkey meat.
Make sure to brine it. It's
Or
you
bring a
got
bacon or something.
yeah. Like
Super.
otherwise it's gonna taste like shoe leather.
Sure.
I've only plucked one turkey. I'll never do it again. It was awful.
That's a learn your lesson one time thing.
Yeah, unless you got a plucker machine like a
Oh, man,
tumbler
yeah.
or something. but
Right.
no, it's really good though. Yeah, and age doesn't matter when you're mixing with bacon.
Bacon makes everything better.
Throw enough
Can
cream cheese and
confirm.
jalapenos in it, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
My favorite recipe involves bacon too. So basically, like I'll take the turkey breasts and I'll brine it for 24 hours, and then I'll cut it in, and then I do like jalapeno poppers. So basically, I'll take the jalapeno and then I'll put cream cheese in there, and then I'll cut the turkey into strips the lengths of the jalapeno, and then I'll wrap it in bacon, and then throw it on like the pellet grill.
Oh yeah.
So that's we did that for the Super Bowl this past year.
yeah.
There you go.
And yeah, that was my favorite item.
So me and you, I know, are going out this weekend, I think, right? Are
I
you?
sure hope so.
I'm going out. Are you? You're probably not right now, are you?
Nope. I got.
But you'll get out.
I got a field trial this weekend.
There you go.
Sacrificed most of my turkey season for running bird dogs.
There you go.
I'm
But
going
hey.
to volleyball this weekend. So.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Nice.
Hopefully, maybe me and Mike will have a chance to try some recipes
There you
after
go.
this weekend.
Yeah. Hey, you
If
can
stuff
always,
goes well.
you can always go on the What's Cooking YouTube
That's
channel.
true.
I got a bacon wrapped turkey episode
That's true.
on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one was pretty
I
solid.
feel like the odds
so.
are in your guys' favor.
Yeah.
Hoping so.
Give,
It's going to be nice.
gonna
Though.
give it our best. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Solomon, Ashley,
Yeah,
thanks
thank
as
you.
always.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this segment. If you need any turkey hunting items, make sure to head to your local SCHEELS store. Visit us online at scheels.com. And thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the SCHEELS Outdoors podcast. Stay tuned for future segments and visit our social media pages, SCHEELS Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates.